All right, in this lesson, we'll be taking a look at the include method on a string. The include method is an example of what I call Boolean method, which means it returns true or false. And just like all the other Boolean methods we've explored, it concludes with a question mark. That's the visual symbol that Ruby gives us, that it's that type of method. The include method returns true if the substring that you provide as an argument exists in the string that the method is called on. So it's basically a way of checking if something exists in another string. So let me give you an example. I'm going to declare a variable here called name, and I'll set it equal to Snow White with a capital S and a capital W. Let's begin with checking for single characters. So I'm going to do name.include with that question mark at the end. And then I'm going to open my parentheses here. Again, that's the method invocation, and you don't have to do it if you're not giving it any arguments. You certainly don't even have to do it if you are giving it arguments, but I think best practice is if you are providing arguments or inputs, it's good to include a parentheses. And here in double quotes, I can provide the character that I want to look for. So for example, if I look for a capital S, it's going to find it at the very beginning. It doesn't matter how many times it occurs, as long as it occurs at least once. We're going to get a true. It is true that the capital letter S appears in our Snow White string. Similarly, if I do something like the letter H, we're going to get another true that exists in the second word there, white, okay? Now this is case sensitive. So for example, there is a uppercase S in Snow White, but there is no lowercase s. So if I put the search for an S, I'm actually going to get a false, because it is false that the lowercase s exists in my string Snow White. Only an uppercase S exists there. So watch out for that. We'll dive into how we can solve for this issue in just a few moments. Of course, as we know by now, spaces do count as characters. So if I include something like a space here within my double quotes here, this is a single space. Ruby is going to tell me true, a space does exist. If I instead do something like a double space, there is no part in this string where there are two spaces in a row, so I'm going to get back a false. Okay? Now, as I mentioned, we can run into plenty of problems due to case sensitivity. We can be looking for a specific character, but forget that things are in uppercase in some sections or lowercase in some sections, so we might be prone to making an error. What we can do before we call the include method is to normalize the string. What we mean when we say normalize the string is convert it to either all lowercase or either all uppercase. That means that whenever we call the include method on it, we're guaranteed to be working with a consistent set of casings, so thus it's much more likely to find the result that we're looking for if it exists in there. So for example, if I take name right here, and before I call include, what I'm going to do is call downcase. Remember that that method takes the string and converts it all to lowercase. So now the S and W in my Snow White string are now in lowercase. Now if I go ahead and look for include, and I know to remember to put a lowercase s in here, it doesn't matter that the s in my original string is uppercase, because now that we've downcased everything, we are going to get a true here. So this is how we can basically very easily ensure that something exists in a string without worrying about casing. To do this process in a slightly different fashion, what we can do, for example, is take name and then upcase it. That's going to give us the string with all the characters uppercase, and thus if I do include and give it a substring that is going to be all uppercase, that's a much safer check than simply worrying about the casing. You can see that the capital letters OW are going to show up as true, and again, it's because it's comparing it to this string that it's getting back from name upcase, not this original string that we have. By the way, because we didn't call a bang method, because we simply called upcase here, the original name is not modified. It's still Snow White with a capital S and W. Only this temporary operation casings changes all the letters to upper casing, so we can do this include and check for this. This is just a recommended way for you to check for a character or a substring to exist in a string if you want to very easily solve for that case consistency issue. And so far we've largely been sticking with single characters, but as this example shows, we can absolutely do multiple characters. So just to give you a few examples, if I take name and then I downcase it to get Snow White in lowercase, let's say I want to see if the word snow or the substring snow exists in there. We can type in snow, and you can see that is true. Let's copy this code. Let's check for something like rain. That completely does not exist, so we're going to get a false. Let's now check for something like it. We're going to see that that is in fact present in the Snow White. It's in the second word there. And let's see what else we can do. Let's say sit, for example. We added one more letter there. That is false. Okay, so include, as you can see, is just a basic Boolean method. It doesn't tell you where in the string you can find something if it is found. It's just a basic yes or no, true or false, that gives you a true if something is included. And of course, if you want to increase the safety of this operation, just remember to normalize the string by calling either the downcase or upcase method on it first, and then providing that proper casing in the substring that you feed as the argument to the include method. All right, so I'll see you in the next lesson.